Hello everyone, my name is Corey Turner, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about ventilation systems. I've mentioned in the past that when it comes to your roof, proper ventilation is key. However, it's also one of the most misunderstood portions of your roofing system. So today we're going to be talking about passive ventilation systems. Now, I say passive because we're going to talk about the type of ventilation system that doesn't use any electricity or any moving parts. There's also active ventilation systems such as a power fan. We're not going to really touch base on that today, but we will later on. So there's two different kinds of passive ventilation systems. The first is a cross ventilation system, meaning that it's going to move from one side of your attic to the other side of your attic. The other one being an eave to ridge ventilation system, and that means that the airflow is going to go from the bottom of your roof line, called the eave, on up to the ridge line and on out. So let's talk about the cross ventilation system first. Louvers, also known as gable vents, are the most common type of cross ventilation system we see here in Connecticut. Come in different sizes and shapes, as you can see from the pictures. The airflow in your attic in this type of system is going to move horizontally. The goal is to get it to move from one side of your attic all the way across to the other side of the attic before it exits. With every ventilation system, there's always an intake vent and an exhaust vent. The cross ventilation system that we just took a look at, the two louvers, one acts as the intake and one's going to act as the exhaust. With a eave to ridgeline ventilation system, the intake vent is always going to be down by your eave or your soffit line. That's going to act as your intake, and the hot air is going to rise over time and exit out through the ridge area. That's going to act as your exhaust vent. There are two main groups of eave ventilation. One would be an eave or edge vent, which runs along the bottom edge of your roof, or the other one would be soffit ventilation, which is essentially ventilation in the underside of the overhang on your house. There are several different kinds of exhaust ventilation out there. In the upper left-hand corner, we're showing a ridge vent. To the right of that, a slant vent, and below that, a turbine vent. Each one has a specific purpose in which it was designed for. The upper left-hand corner, the ridge vent, is the most common in our area. The added benefit of the ridge vent is, in most cases, it offers a continuous draw of air from your intake ventilation along your eave. So at this point, you're probably wondering what the problem is. Ventilation sounds like a good thing. Corey said so. It's important. But what happens when you mix ventilation systems? We talked about that cross ventilation system where you're trying to get the airflow from one side of your roof over on one louver all the way to the other side of your attic where the other louver is. If you add in a ridge vent, the air is going to take the path of least resistance. Well, what is that path? It means that it's going to go in through those louvers and then right out the ridge vent, and you're not going to get that cross ventilation system. So in reality, you may be thinking that you're adding extra ventilation, and ventilation is great. But in reality, you're actually going to get less ventilation by adding that ridge vent if you have those louvers. This is why it's so important for you to know what proper ventilation is, what type of ventilation system you have on your house, and what works well together and what doesn't. So when you can go out and get estimates with different contractors, and you have a contractor that comes in and says, oh, we're going to put a ridge vent up on that roof, and you know you have louvers, you know that there's a problem, and that should raise a red flag for you. I hope this helped you out, and I hope you learned a little something. I know it can be a little dry and a little bit excessive, but it's important to know because, as I've said previously, it's one of the most misunderstood things. Have a great day.